Taste.
Look.
Smell. Tree.
Bird. Bell. Touch.
Taste.
Look.
Smell.
Tree.
Fish.
Bird.
Bell. So do as the poet says and listen.
And listen.
And listen. And listen. And listen.
And listen.
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Peter Sheriff. I'm the Events and Development Coordinator for Hospitality Celebration Cup. We've been delivering the festival looking at festival into the festival happens in every region in Scotland, so hopefully this event you've managed to see some of the wonderful things happening in the areas around you. But if not, next year don't forget there's probably something for street and there's things to see. We are very grateful to the Advanced Research Centre, the University for hosting us and the community building. Thank you to Cassie Dillon and Dara Gladman for all their work in making it happen. The ARC is the home of collaborative research at the University of Glasgow, and works to bring researchers, partners and ideas together from across the campus, the city and beyond. The ground floor where we are now is public all year round, and hosts a wide range of events and projects inspired by the university itself. Well, each QR code is scanned on the way out, and that will link you to our mailing list so you can find out what's happening in this building all throughout the year. I'd like to say a really huge thank you to our funders, to Glasgow City Council, Glasgow City Heritage Trust, to our sponsor Jenkins, and to all of our sponsors who make this event possible. Thank you to our amazing volunteers who welcomed you today, without whom the event would not be possible. If you feel like making a donation to help us keep the event free, you can do so by texting 785 to the number on the screen there, and that will donate £5. Text costs £5 plus one standard rate message. We also have a donations bucket in the door if you feel like making a contribution, and our volunteers will also be able to assist you in any part. I hope that you have really enjoyed this award-winning lecture this afternoon. And we want to hear what you think. We want you to help us make the festival better each year with a festival survey, which is linked. There's a QR code in the front of a flyer, which you can pick up from the desk at front. And volunteers will be able to help out with that. And just a few questions, let us know what you think about the festival and any ideas you have and things you'd like to see next year, the next 34 years of the festival. In the unlikely event of a fire, please see through the doors back, across the foyer, and also find the same further. Okay, I am very glad to introduce Mary Cave, Vice Convener of the 1820 Society. Politically active since her school days, Mary is co-convener of Pensioners for Independence. She's a member of PDN International, the organisation of authors who support writers persecuted for their political views. Mary is the author of works of fiction and non-fiction. In 1990, when Glasgow was European capital of culture, Mary co-wrote Streets, Scenes and Stages, and illustrated accounts of cultural projects supported by Strathclyde social work department. Other books include novels in ever-rounding times and Two Closes and a Referendum. A fictionalised Stirring the Dust, based on her own family tree, was paperback of Relief and Herald. Dozens of her poems, her stories in Scots, English, and Gaelic have appeared in anthologies, and a children's book and radio plays have appeared in German translation. So, ready for your this, amazing day.
Thank you for that quite overwhelming introduction. Thanks. Yeah. I'm going, as most of you know, if you've been through the Scottish school system, history, Scottish history is generally not very well taught in the Scottish home. I'm going to be talking today about a period in history that was particularly suppressed at the time. Very few people actually knew about it, even people who found out that they were descendants of those involved, or they lived beside the monuments of shame. So, yeah, so it's the radical wars. Now, when people talk about Red Clydeside, there's usually meaning the early 20th century. But Clydeside was read about 100 years before that, and not only Clydeside, a lot of Scotland. When people talk about the radical wars, if they know about radical wars, they tend to be pinpointing only the events of 1820 and the Battle of Warning Europe. But actually, really the unrest, I would date back to the 1784 and the very first organised strike in the United Kingdom. In Carlton and Glasgow, it was kind of a sausage and we run into each other, and it was the handloom weavers who were on strike. The handloom weavers were always the troublemakers whenever there was anything like that going, because they were the educated class of the working class and the more intellectual part of the board, because of the way they operated. The handloom weavers worked from home, they set their own hours, and they arranged their own wages by a kind of collective bargaining with the employers and with the magistrates as the honest brokers who decided what was a fair wage. So this setup gave them lots of time to read books, read political books. All these wee villages tended to have lending libraries. They also were very radical that they had reformed societies, so they were involved in politics, and the handloom weavers especially so. Well, the handloom weavers in 1780s were under a lot of pressure from the big industrial looms running places like New Lanark. They were also under pressure because they lost the cotton coming from America after. So, in the 1780s, the weavers, handloom weavers' wages got cut by 25%, and the weavers all came out of strike. And the strike went on through that summer. Strike breakers, there was quite a bit of skirmishing and fighting. Soldiers were brought in again and again. People who were breaking strikes had their looms burnt, had their cloth burnt. You find quite often the soldiers that were involved in all this were brought up from England. It was often English battalions because the authorities didn't trust the Scottish military not to be common cause in the streets. A letter to the Lord Provost of Glasgow, saying they wanted to meet in Padley, and they didn't wish violence to anybody. The Lord Provost coming up, along with the sheriff, and they met the strikers at the Drygate Brewery, which is today the Tenants Brewery in Denison. Fortunately, to make himself feel a bit secure, the Lord Provost also brought up soldiers from the East Middlesex Regiment. Before there was any firing, the law said that the Land Act had to be removed, but we're not sure anyway, but is true is that the soldiers started firing into the unarmed strikers, and they shot 6 of them dead. We don't know how many were wounded because people wounded in these circumstances couldn't go to doctors or authorities or anything like that. And then the soldiers did a house search overall, the people failure but evidence of its selection of the report. In 1792, the second part of Thomas Paine's book, The Rights of Man, was published. Now, the gist of Thomas Paine's book was that if a government is oppressive to the people have the right to withdraw. Now, it does feel rubbish. Again, Henry the last went to the and most people these days think of Henry the Last as the person who believed the abolition of slavery. More about, much more involved with Scotland. He was considered the uncrowned king of Scotland because he had so many positions in Scotland. Well, I find it in London as well. And the positions he did hold in Scotland, he said he came out his relations. He was a snatcher of the radicals. And so he saw Thomas Green's book and declared that this was a vile and seditious book, and he banned it. He said anybody who printed a copy, owned a copy, bought or sold a copy, was seditious and would be done for sedition. So, sales absolutely shot through the roof, and sold like cupcakes, and not only across the central belt, it was translated into Gaelic and sold all over the Highlands. And for good measure, the people started burning effigies in the castle of the place and planting liberty trees to show their support for the French Revolution. The next bit of unrest that kind of slided seamlessly into all this was the anti-conscription riots. Yeah, here we are. Now, they introduced conscription, military conscription into England in 1759, but they never dared to introduce it into Scotland, or obviously Ireland. The Lord Provost of Glasgow said it would be dangerous to put arms in the hands of the fanatics in the west of Scotland. To trust arms in the hands of the lower classes of people and absolute violence. So these anti-conscription riots, the way they were running the conscription, the school teachers were all told to draw up lists of young men aged between 18 and 23. And the school teachers, the dominees, were in a terrible situation because if they didn't do it, they would be probably unconstitutional themselves, or at least lose their jobs. If they did do it, they were likely to find their house burned down by the locals. So, to encourage the school teachers to draw up these lists, soldiers were sent round all of the villages to encourage them to draw this list. There was a lot of fighting about this, and it was mainly led by women who were the visitors of the They went up with unrest went all the way up Cleveland. There was a castle stormed, and the Duke of Atholl was kidnapped. And need to find a Apple neighbour that the Duke of Atholl incidentally was from the army, and to this day, the current Duke of Atholl, who doesn't live in the village in South Africa, he's the only person in Europe with the right to have private army. Oh, I believe he's private army this time. That's the fight that's been and the bloodiest bit of what happened in Chile was the massacre of the Chileans, which even in Chile were things together. This lady here, Jackie Truxton, was the first who was shot dead. What happened in Chile? The Cambridgeshire cavalry, but this was they came in to try and get the school teacher to say, and they were handed a letter with the signature in a picture common, so no one person could be written. So there were signatures in the picture, and there was a letter saying the inscription was very much. And it ended up, although we may be overcoming the trash from our parents, we need to you can benefit from this. And better they probably have told the boys that the stairs are clear the country if the schools go. So, I mean, they are really encapsulated with what brought in recently on once a soldier for two reasons. There weren't plans and holding down all these people that were doing insurrection and stuff in the streets. And the other thing, of course, was the Lord Provost arguing the first these people guns. Anyway, the soldiers in Trent just went completely mad when they ran into people's houses, they ran up the stairs with the tenements, they had guns and were firing at people, and then they rode out of the village into the local countryside and just shot at everything that moved. They shot a man going to collect his wages, they shot a wee boy going to see a teacher, they shot a calf or something. People who had nothing to do with the protests and maybe didn't even know the protests were going on. They shot dead 12 people and wounded couldn't tell how many. 12 people is nearly as many as the people who massacred the peace. When these people actually were testing and people would be obviously to shoot them, but the tornado was someone did, and it was all covered over. Wherever this people massacre. I was in Trinidad last year, and this statue here in Turkey is in the town square. It's the only thing in the town square. It's in my village in East Lothian. And there's no plaque on it to say what this was about. I asked the lady who was in the lunch there if he was Trinidad born in the end, and she said she didn't know what this statue was about. She thought it was something just in France. I went into the library and asked them about the statue and started putting in this thing. But then somebody remembered I had seen when that statue was erected in the 90s, there was a newspaper cutting about it, and she put it in the newspaper. But this much name knew about that thing, but in fact, it's maybe other people do it. The impression I got was that the Peter movement is seen as national history, taught in schools in Scotland, but Trinent isn't even purposefully. Simultaneously with all these working class struggles, there were middle class struggles going on. A lot of you have probably heard of Thomas Muir of Clinton Small. I won't go into his life because it was absolutely here all day, but his life was incredible. On a global scale, and one week in his life was pure adventure and was death. But he was an idealistic lawyer, and where all the wee villages had their own reform societies, and in Scotland, although it had only 20% of the population of England, many reform societies in Scotland, and they were wanting political reform. Thomas Muir was going round all these societies and setting up branches of this organisation called the Friends of the People, who were more radical in the reform, and they were more for reform, including the universal wage suffrage. Thomas Muir was also friendly with the United Irishmen. He was friendly with Malcolm Candy, who was involved with the United Irishmen. The United Irishmen were more than the people they wanted an independent Irish republic. So Thomas Muir, his speeches, he said things like, "You do not consider ourselves as a Celtic island in another country." And surprisingly, there was some support from the upper classes, from the aristocracy. Now, there were Friends of the People Society down in Edmund, in London, but they tended to be a richer, more upper class lot because they had very high subscription fees, which cut out the working classes, and they had quite a lot of aristocrats in their numbers. And we had Lord Dare. Lord Dare, who was in Scotland, and the Scottish Friends of the People, he wrote a long letter to Charles VIII, who later became Prime Minister, Lord Dare wrote, "Scotland has long grown under the chains of England. We have existed as a proper province these 2 centuries. Had no union ever taken place, we should have been more emancipated than we are. The threats of liberty in Scotland have almost unanimously been evidenced." And then you get Donald Stewart, who was the Earl of Lauderdale, again, obviously, the village. He went down to France and harangued a revolutionary war in Paris on the subject of Britain. And when he came back to Scotland, many years later, he again Sunday law in the provisional government of Scotland. So you have new parts involved in this as well. So Muir, well, Henry Dundas, his nephew, Robert Dundas, was an advocate general, and he did Thomas Muir be accused him of sedition, and he was let out in bail, and Thomas Muir thought that he would try to get the friends in high places down in London, but the aristocrats, to help him with his coming trial in Edinburgh. So he went down to London and found that the friends of the people in London were into trying to follow the whole foreign project. They were so upset about the French being about to give it to their enemy. Well, Thomas Muir was never acting in confidence about the British, so he went down to Paris to try to negotiate with the French government to develop them. So he could go back to England, get these reformers to help him, and to really talk in his time in Edinburgh, you know. Well, a wee spoiler going here, he did not persuade French with him. The heads came on, but he did get to meet Thomas Paine, and he was in exile there, and it took him a while to manage to get back for his trial, because after the King and Queen of France were executed, the UK government failed on France, so it took him a bit of a while to get back. But he did get back to Edinburgh. On his first day of his trial, Robert Burns, what happened to be in Edinburgh at the time, and he handed over his draft of Scots for Hay to his publisher today, with a wee note saying, obviously, Scots for Hay appears to be about Management, but he handed it in with a note saying to the effect that this is actually a reference to a more recent struggle. And most people reckon that this was a reference to Thomas Muir's trial, and the authorities thought so too, because the band Scots for Hay went away, and it was banned for the next 50 years. What happens to our song? Well, it became an absolute anthem of revolution, not only all over Scotland, but all Ireland, but tens of the tunes in them, it was like that for back from all over England as well. And when all the people were writing, this was happening on then, the Peter Blue, and also the writing was this thing called the Fatal Street, in these places, the band would play Scots for Hay and all the rest of the station. So, Thomas Muir and his four accused were up before it was Lord Maxfield, he was the judge. He was this judge who had a wicked turn of phrase, as he thought. Whenever he wanted to be funny, he would go into God's thoughts. And one of his favourite aphorisms was, "Head of feet when he's young and you'll know still reason." So one of Muir's co-accused pointed out to Lord Maxfield that even our Saviour was a reformer, and Lord Maxfield said, "Uncle, he made of that, he was like that." So anyway, Thomas Muir made a really idealistic figure of speech, but of course didn't really any good, off the web of the Botany Bay. Which was not Thomas Muir's adventures for a lot of the enemies, but we'll leave on the interest now. Your reaction to the deal. George Wheelmaker of the D, he was a leader. Like many readers, he was a poet, thinking studying as well about the government. One theory why the readers were also into poetry and Venice and so on, it was partly because the job they were doing, they were sitting in front of a room doing orders that they did the job, and it proved into their heads. That's one theory. So George Wheelmaker, his political philosophy was a mixture of Keenite republicanism, radical Presbyterianism, this went to religious freedom and democratic so he seemed like it was really and things got a bit quiet, and I probably wasn't going on it moment, and all these young guys who were fighting with the soldiers were the plans. But when the war started to end and back, now you back in just in jobs because they weren't brought back, and the dancing the south coast of England, they thought it would be Scotland. So they come back in groups and jobs, and they come back to a country that was brilliant with unemployment, partly because of the sanctions, partly because of the displaced islanders all coming down and having appearances and looking for work, looking for homes, looking for food, looking for houses and food that had nothing. So all these young men brought into the mix, they're angry, unemployed, and importantly, trained in the art of war. So it all started up again. And from 1809 to 1820, around 100,000 workers in Western Scotland risked transportation to join the League of Trade Unions. Based on the lines of the United Scotsman societies, perspective, yeah, the United Scotsman, I should say, which John Neal made it more radical. Universal suffrage and independence for Scotland. One person in each cell, only more than one person in another cell. So no one person got a real picture of the captured exchanges. So 100,000 people, 100,000 workers in the rest of Scotland, risking transportation, illegal trade unions. To put the numbers in perspective, the whole population of Glasgow at this time was 7,000. Well, because of all the pressure of unemployment and everything in the rise in population, in 1812, the weavers' wages were again cut by this time of 50%. So the weavers went to the magistrates, who were supposed to be honest brokers. The magistrate said, no, we've got right here, right. The employers are making the law. And so they ordered the employers to go back to paying 100%. So the weavers come out and strike. 40,000 weavers come out and strike. And interestingly, they were supported by Glasgow University students. And many of these students were the very sons of the employers that were refusing the money to the weavers. And this is a very early time, a very early example of students and workers making common cause in some, in a protest demonstrations long before the 1960s. The reasons against the civil war say that the fact that they come out strike from magistrates against them, soldiers were brought in and strike leaders were put on and transported to Ireland. In 1816, there was a gathering of about 40,000 near Glasgow, demanding reform. But they got to actually organise something like that would happen in the first place with private land owned by a supportant, which was big enough to take them to. They then have to go and send the message out by just because most of the people and to tell them where it was happening, and then they go, so anyway, the reality of compromise, they demanded that the agitated by general strike and a radical activity plus warning Scottish provisional government. Villages identified by the authorities as being particular revolutionary hotspots included Jealousy, Portland Glass, Angus, Townley, Downhead, Martin, Hamilton, the guy in Washington total of drawing together and time to know it. England, the Indians, Sterling, Elderslie, Johnson, Barton, Wilson, Eaglesham, Heath, and Hyde, and Stilton. But the leading term of Paisley was the Riot Act was well made a good point, and the people was good and the Riot Act was well made a good point in any of the two. And these were people who knew about Riot Act, in fact, they're quite proud of their radical past, and the sentence of but before the pandemic anyway, I think we've since they have looked at the investigators that focused on talking about the radical past. We've got here a case of a late account of life in by John Patfall says life in Paisley in 1817. He said training, police paramilitary training of guns, fights on the village creek at night after the gun day's work. Training after nightfall became quite common. Officers were not appointed for thoughtful, pikes, guns, and pistols were not in readiness. And over and above the drill, large public meetings added to the general agitation. The fatal meeting at Manchester, that was Peterloo, was a culminating plan in the insurrectionary movement. I was really got this than another. So the government authorities got involved in supplies and ad-hoc pillars, whose job it was to get the leaders of it so that the reformers knew about these undercover activities. There's a wee letter written by Sandy Roger in 1817. She curses the fate of her spies and informers. She wails on the efforts of fruitless made when foul through the plan for the blood of reformers, seduced the unwary, then basely betrayed. Roger would later fear the high treason. When guys would fear the high treason, there was always a question of who would actually. Well, 16,000 gathered in Paisley in Switzerland after the Peterloo massacre, and there were also demonstrations in Ayrton and home and other places. The trade march, the front and so much sort of way and what this is. The government, of course, wanted to keep all this quiet. In October 1819, Robert McLaren and Glasgow Printer launched a weekly newspaper called Spirit of Dreaming. And we basically just told what was happening, reported on these demonstrations that were going on. And after 10 issues, the Florence print works were raided and he was brought to trial for sedition. He was sentenced to jail for about 5 months. But while he was serving his sentence, the authorities were thinking about it. And the whole way out of jail, he put him in trial again, but in fact, he was punished that time, which even in that case was illegal. But they didn't have the same, the first thing to do is rising against the radicals. People who have thought got involved in Walter Flott, novelist, poet, and all this. He spent a private money to fight on behalf of the government against the radicals. Then, through the Castle Henry, said to be notified that they were going to the Castle shots, she thought that more like the liberty and gave them guns, but said it was to try and shoot the radicals were going to speak. On March the 21st, 1820, a committee for organising a provisional government met in a Malawi. And the aims of the Scottish radicals again was to parliamentary reform, so suffrage, and independence for Scotland. A police spy, John Mitchell, who was reported back to the forces. They confessed their audacious plot to sever the kingdom of Scotland from that of England. In their name, flyers, leaflets, placards, posters were all distributed to the and back in the neighbourhood jail committee, urging the general strike and the further rape and Arlington's election in the February. From April the 1st to the 6th, we had 60,000 people on the strike, not just Eva, all the things. The government deployed soldiers all over Glasgow, battalions to validate the streets, the city squares, the Christmas Street. They deployed artillery and all the bridges, the summit of the battalions. The Scottish 1820 supervisor, we talk about that, we usually talking about. Now, one of the emissaries in England, they were also discussing the and this emissary from Nottingham people advised he came up to Scotland and he advised that the Scottish radicals shouldn't actually start fighting until the group was happening in England. And so the signal for this was supposed to be that the London mail coach would not arrive in Glasgow because the radicals at a mile were told to be late. The mail coach turned up with their face, and this made a lot of the radicals, most of them back, decided to just go open. But some of them still wanted to go on with it, whatever was happening in England. And of course, we're also roused up with these agents, government agents, trying to get them flushed out and released. A man called Duncan Turner organised a big meeting with the radicals at Third Park, which is at the present day the metropolis of Venice. And he said if they would just walk to Glendoret, they meet there with John Baird, who had a whole army of revolutionaries with him, and he could join that. He said, unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to go with them. And top of it, so John Baird was the other. So why don't they just, undertakes to take these people to Glendoret, they can match the card and they know the issue was crucial, it should be crucial. Maybe was a 30-year-old former soldier, said something great, and they did an Alamo thing, he threw the up and said, you also want to come and meet the government side, if you just want to go home, then on the other side. But unfortunately, only 30 stepped over the line to join them. But they went off bravely enough to be on it. They got there, let John Baird, hard. But John Baird had been told there was a massive army coming from Glasgow. He saw a wee trickle of 30 coming up the road. He wanted to follow him. But he had a man called John King, who was urging that he said, if you just go on to Calman, what's the was, people, the big revolutionary group there, forging planks, forging everything, that's where the Scottish Revolution is. So off the Red Cross could go on it. They went on till it exploded. Now, the Bonnie Muir, they'd all been walking, of course. John King was on a horse. And so he said he would ride away and bring reinforcements. He said he knew exactly where the revolutionaries were. He'd bring them all over to Bonnie Muir if they all wanted to rest there. He galloped. And that surprised the eyes with the last so what did come over the horizon was troops and soldiers. When the radicals saw them all coming over, they did what? They'd been trained to do, they were all military trained. They'd been told if you're infantry and you're being galloped on by cavalry, if you form yourself into a square, that will scoop the horses. Which they did, but they wanted to keep the regular country. So there the radicals hid behind this right, which known to this day was the radical right. Until about 20 years ago, there was nothing to show that that kind of field was actually fighting in America. But 1820 to 19, this position happened, and now they're the radical thing behind the radical right, firing soldiers, but they were completely outgunned. A lot of them ran away, 18 of them were captured, and put in various muscles, mainly, I think are still in prison, right across Scotland. That's where they were put. The next thing that happened, they now moved the very next day to Spain. This man here, John Conley Wilson, was a very interesting man. He's the inventor of colour knitting. It was like a weaver invented a machine to use colour knitting. That wasn't the only thing he could do. He was a part-time dentist, part-time surgeon. He repaired clocks, he repaired bags, although he's always been a piece of all. He was in his 60s and he had a long lifetime of political activism. And demonstrations carrying his band which read Scotland free on the sorts. He wrote a lot of scurrilous stuff against the government as did all of them. But the reason that the authorities had given this thing was that his home was a rendezvous point for radical celebrity right and discussion. Not just for those protected them and the region, so that things like the average slavery, it's just all the time. And of course, the authorities all prepared their nothing to ready for it. You need something to be a bit extra region, but not ask clear the power price and quiet later. So the authorities had him on their side. And he was persuaded, he'd never been involved in violence, but he was persuaded by a man who's just come down in history, who's the Englishman, you don't know especially those. He persuaded John Wilson to go with 25 men to the captain to be assured of the battlefield of which was happening. So off they went towards Campton. But long before they got there, they got to the Skilbride. These made themselves scarce, and then the people who were there told them that Campton about there was no revolution. So Wilson and his men went back home right away without firing a shot. But they'd now been identified, so the soldiers came and rushed into their homes, searched all their houses, and investigated everything, including Wilson. So during this whole summer, 88 men were arraigned for high treason. High treason had never been a crime in Scotland. In fact, it was one of the convention during the Treaty of Union negotiations. Put into Scots law, but without any detail. So Scots lawyers were trained to deal with this. But what they did in previous occasions, like the Jacobites rebellions and so on, when these people were down for high treason, they were all taken down to England, taken down to Carlisle or London, and put the trial there through English law. On this occasion, they did it differently. They set up secret courts all over Scotland and brought up English lawyers and English judges and prosecutors to try the cases. I should mention high treason. Most people know that the penalty for high treason is hanging and quartering. For women, that was for men. For women, it was permanent state. Ordinary treason. Treason is not like high treason is coming out against the king of the government. Ordinary treason is murdering somebody that's set above you in a hierarchy. So if a boss, if a mother murders his boss, that would be treason. If a husband murders his wife, that would be murder, would be attack. If the wife murders the husband, that would be treason, which is public states. But we're all women involved in this thing. So they set up these secret courts to try them under English law. And the trial was something else. It started at 10 in the morning and they went on to midnight without the day. And as soon as after the sun set, the only person allowed to candle was the judge. Everybody else was crawling around the night. The lawyers with their features could be 5 hours long, reading out the banned literature that the James just the titles took 2 hours. if you want to know the trouble is not reading, one of the bad bits is that the Manchester Derby, Manchester, so viewers were very, very unwilling. And in most cases, we didn't act. And I should mention, during the time, there was a whole lot of fighting in the streets, people trying to spring them out of jail. That went on all summer, and in fact, it was successful. 88, then done from high treason originally, only something like 50 ended up starting trial this, and had it gone out, and ran away, or disappeared, or retrial. In Greenock, for example, there was the Crown managed to spend 5 political prisoners into jail. Unfortunately, the soldiers fired into the street and killed 8 people, including a child of 8 and a lady in her 60s. So a few years ago, Greenock put up this memorial to the child's hand in the hand of another person. So that, and in memory of the youngest and the oldest, back with that remarkable that the soldiers did out, which again, probably so the jurors were reluctant to find that she was guilty. I mean, a lot of people or the three barbers that found something else and really went to 15 months or a year or two. In the case of James Wilson, they were sent back 3 times and appealed their verdict and got them to do charges twice. The judge, increasingly furious, sent them back to find a verdict sent them to court. So they finally came back, so they finally came back and found not guilty of 3 crimes, but guilty of accomplishing to levy war against the king in order to compel him to change his measures. And they put in a clemency, but the judge agreed. So, in the end, 3 of them were sentenced to death. That was Wilson, Andrew Hardy, and John Beale. They were tried up at Stirling. Their case was at Stirling, guilty, and sentenced to death. The rest, there were 19 actually altogether were sentenced to transportation to Guantanamo. They commuted the sentence of hanging, drawing, and quartering to just hanging, and then once they're really dead, cutting off the head posthumously. And then we had a problem there because the hanging refused to eventually do the cutting off heads. So they were okay because a medical student at Glasgow University, named Thomas Moore, not reportedly confused with the medical Thomas Muir. This medical student, Thomas Moore, said he'd cut up people in his anatomy classes. He thought he could probably manage beds. So, if he paid him 40 guineas, which was double what a hangman usually got, he would do that. When it came to the execution, there was 20,000 people attended Wilson's execution in Glasgow. And they were really angry, they were shouting abuse at the soldiers, and the soldiers, it was the biggest military presence ever at an execution. The military all the voting and James Wilson made a very passionate speech. I'll just give you it's first interrupted with the judge, of course. He said, you may condemn me to innovation on the scaffold, but we cannot debate it. Pioneer the man of people apples, even treatment with the obligation. It tells me that the only energy. No legal authority will soon cease, but the detective receiving this deed will inform the police. The judge warned the test to show his questioning what they reported, and the next day the black will have the book. He found out the truth. So, after and heading east to Glasgow Beach. Brewer went up to Stirling to do the same for lived in Cardiff. And after he did that, he was a very popular man. And in fact, he began all his studies at Glasgow University, he basically hired. So that meant he fled to Ireland. And the last we hear of him is Ventus, he was sending the affluent, saying that he had been paid 40 days. And they got to the end. Everybody wants to see his hope and his living prophet. Acts that he used on the way to stay in this Ukrainian sermon. And so these were the last ever beheadings in Ukraine. The transport chief meanwhile had to wait for his months and waiting for a boat. And Steve Weavers, the second time writing poems and songs. And here's a wee song. Very much done by all it's dark body blue, it's a dark look
On the 15th of April, 1820, the great Beard and Hardy did march from their home. To guard the freedom home, rights, peace and plenty, a tyranny conquered and gave them a tomb. Like traitors they died on the 8th of September, in the cold silent grave they were consigned to slumber. But heaven will avenge them, let tyrants remember, and raise up new heroes on dark bonny Muir.
That's actually just a wee bit of the song in it. Yeah. It's quite a long poem actually. So let's have a wee look at this monument now, which actually is supposed to be the thing we're discussing just now. It's not open there, and this is the building, the edifice that we're discussing. Now, this monument was erected in 1847, which was 15 years from it. Is that right? Yeah. It was 15 years after the Reform Act, which gave the vote to 13% of the male population, not what it was. But some of the supporters managed to get, in those days, Council Cemetery was not the council land, it was owned with private art, owned by a supporter. So he said we could put that monument up, and put up similar monuments in Straven and in Basin. And then they asked the authorities if we could remove the bodies of Baird and Harvey and bury them under there. Wilson's body was already removed by his family, and it was in his family there at Straven, so we're just here to this day. So they asked permission to move the bodies of Baird and Harvey there. And they were told just that the conditions for this removal is on the actual stone there. Under the express condition, the removal should take place, etc., etc., etc. So even in 1847, they were trying to suppress this bit of history. And they did remove them. They had help from an old man who remembered where the bodies were. And they recognised it by their smash jaw because Thomas Moore had done a bad job on it. Here's another bit of the monument. This is all in Sitesville Cemetery. Of course, this monument predates all the graves, but the vast majority of people who live nearby, even The 1820 Society, just a few years ago, well, maybe I think it's in the 1990s, got permission to put up the names of the transportees. And you can see Alan Butcher there who wrote that song just here. And Andrew White, there were only 3 of the transportees who came back, and Andrew White, when he died in the February of natural causes, he asked if he could go under the 1 and the 2. So he's the third radical. Because of the sea group. And of course, it's written by Margaret and Alistair McFarlane. Alistair McFarlane knew nothing about the radical movements, having been through the Scottish education. But he emigrated to Australia, where he met this historian and married her, his wife Margaret, which she knew all about. And they discovered from the research that one of the radicals who was transported was actually his ancestor, Thomas McFarlane. And so they wrote this book about the research, what happened to the radicals in Australia, and they did very well. They all ended up in professions, in business, in landowners, they did really very well. And we wouldn't actually know anything about the radicals at all if it weren't for this book. This is the new edition, or the new early edition of Scottish Indirect. This book was researched and written in the 1960s and published in 1970. It was written by Peter Beresford Ellis. And the book started back in 1980. Peter Beresford Ellis is still on, actually, but she did not involve in the died in the 1980s. Sanchez were put beside the monument there. So he's just been shown there at the side of the I mean, how are these events all remembered? Well, Peter Lou is on the service for Scotland Yard and England. And so in fact, I'm not mentioning it's all for the nurses, but I mean, what happened with them is established compared to the radical war that went on for 30 years, and there were all these people, so soldiers, executed, trial, sent out to Australia. The top of the members, members of the day, they were sent to Australia 4 years, and they were welcome. Peru was a major film made on it, top of the mountain, it was made the television series. But the Scottish radical wars were just being taken alive by individual enthusiasts. The Indian 20th Society was set up just happened in the paper. But the people who set it up are people probably not about the community. It was them, but they I do. You can see there the producer on annual generation service there. They're also responsible for tax and various places like that. And in 2001, there was a debate in the Scottish Parliament about whether the radical wars should be taught in some argued for it. One NSP argued against it. Anyway, the full decision being global. And then just last year, one of the 1820 Society became from Greenock, persuaded Chris Greenock NSP to do another debate, this time saying Scottish history should be taught in schools with special reference to our role in slavery, but also the ancient grammatical wars. Very tragically, this guy died just the day before the debate, so he missed the debate. But anyway, it was, usual thing was it was a private language bill, so we discussed that bit. So as to whether the radical wars will ever be in the schools in Scotland, well, the jury's still out on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brady. Maybe worth mentioning that last year, 2021-2022, Glasgow Public Innovation Fund ran a project with Mary, and we did an engagement project with schools in Fight Hill, celebrating Iraq awards. We had young people in drama workshops and making artwork inspired by the Radical Wars and thinking about what the changes they want to see in their own communities. So that was kind of a pilot project, and so hopefully we're picking that up again and celebrating sharing the important stuff. Can you join me thanking Native Neighbour, everyone? In this room, starting momentarily, we have local homes that are going to talk about these part of the night getting in order for that.